that are appreciated by everyone who visits our country. But I would like to underscore that we have not received sufficient support from the international community, especially from the European Union, for the efforts that we have been carrying out. The expenditures of our public institutions, of our civil society organizations and our people in order to meet the needs of those living in the camps and cities in Turkey have so far exceeded $30 billion. In turn, the European Union has sent only 820 million euros out of the 3 billion plus 3 billion euros that they in fact promised. Total assistance from the international community through the United Nations remains around $520 million. These do not come into our budget, mind you. This money goes, and they are intended for the Syrians, I should point out. They are intended for the Syrians. None of this money goes into Turkey's budget. This money is given to those in need by the relief agencies through the relevant institutions of the United Nations, mind you. Before the whole world here, I here call on the countries and international organizations which have put all the burden of the 3.2 million people on Turkey's shoulders only. I call on them to fulfill the promises they have made. In fact, Turkey is a country that carries out humanitarian aid and development assistance activities around the world. Not only do we welcome those who come to our country, but through TİKA, which is a Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency, through the Disaster and Management Authority of Turkey, and through the Turkish Red Crescent and various other civil society organizations, we rush to the help of all those who are suffering and who are under oppression, regardless of which part of the world they may be. For example, through its official institutions and civil society organizations, Turkey has spent $1 billion for the reconstruction of Somalia so far. The work that we carry out and the results that we have achieved in Somalia would indeed set an example for similar efforts. According to confirmed OECD statistics, with $6 billion of humanitarian and development aid in 2016, Turkey ranked as the world's second largest donor and top contributor in terms of GNP. Yet, Turkey is the 17th largest economy of the world. Having spent 0.8% of its national income for humanitarian assistance, Turkey is one of the 6 countries that could meet the UN target. So, as you see, Turkey is working real hard towards a sustainable world, which is the main message of this General Assembly. And we will continue in the coming days with the same consideration in mind. Honorable Mr. President, esteemed delegates, Turkey is engaged in an intensive fight against the bloody terrorist organizations of the region, such as Daesh and PKK, nourished by the instability in Syria and Iraq. Additionally, our fight against the FETÖ terrorist organization, which attempted to change the legitimate and democratic regime of Turkey by a bloody coup, is also ongoing. We have recovered 243 residential areas and a land which is larger than 2,000 square kilometers, thanks to the Operation Euphrates Shield, initiated in Syria following the attacks of Daesh on our borders. We have neutralized almost 3,000 Daesh militants during that operation. Around 100,000 Syrians returned to and resettled in the region that we cleaned up from the terrorists. The Operation Euphrates Shield is the single greatest accomplishment against Daesh since its occupation of the region. I must highlight the following fact in your presence. Most of the groups and forces claiming to fight against Daesh in the region, in fact, have no such real purpose. These groups and forces use Daesh as a pretext to just realize their own agendas. The efforts by PYD, YPG to change the demographic structure in the regions it has captured, to seize the property of the people, to kill or exile the ones who stand against it, all of these things form a crime against humanity. If the fight against Daesh is not conducted on a legitimate basis, it would be unavoidable for the world to come under the threat of a new Daesh-like entity. Similar approaches exist in Iran as well. Iraq also needs the compromises to be reached on the basis of territorial integrity and the realization of the ideals to build a common future. Steps such as demands for independence that can cause new crises and conflicts in the region must be avoided. We here call on the Iraqi Kurdish regional government to abort the initiative that they have launched in that direction. Ignoring the clear and determined stance of Turkey in this matter may lead to a process that shall deprive the Iraqi Kurdish regional government even the opportunities they currently enjoy. We all should work on building tranquility, peace, security and stability in the region instead of sparking new conflicts. Esteemed Mr. President, dear delegates, besides Syria and Iraq, we are also closely following the regions such as Libya and Yemen, where terrorist organizations are trying to establish influence. International community's support to the legitimate government in Libya shall contribute significantly to the stability of the country. It should be kept in mind that if the mistakes made in Syria and Iraq are repeated in Libya, then that will expose the whole world, particularly Europe, to much greater threats. Another issue that Turkey lays delicate emphasis on is the immediate resolution of the conflict which has erupted in the Gulf region. We believe that the sanctions negatively affecting the living conditions of the Qatari people should first of all be lifted. We support the mediation efforts of the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah, for the resolution of the crisis. Our hope is that these efforts would yield a positive result. We also hope that Saudi Arabia, whom we see as the elder brother of the Gulf region, would show a sincere will for the resolution of this issue. Another important problem is the issue of Palestine, which we consider to be the gaping wound of the world, and by extension, the preservation of the historical status of Jerusalem and Al-Haram al-Sharif, i.e. the Temple Mount. The crisis in Al-Haram al-Sharif in July has demonstrated that the sensitivity of the issue. The continuation of the peace process there can only be possible on the condition that Israel immediately stops illegal settlement activities and takes steps towards a two-state solution. So in this context, I call on the international community to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters in eastern Jerusalem, the West Bank and Gaza as they struggle for an independent and geographically unified Palestinian state. Despite the current absence of conflict, the Balkans is another potential crisis geography which still faces serious challenges. For this reason, we attach great importance to the integration of Balkan countries with the Euro-Atlantic institutions. Turkey will continue to do its part for peace, stability and welfare to prevail in this exceptional part of the world. The territorial integrity of Azerbaijan and of Georgia is the key for regional stability in southern Caucasus. So we need to work harder for the resolution of the conflicts in Nagorno-Karabakh, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. We should never forget that each crisis that we ignore today has the potential to spark a regional and even a global crisis tomorrow. In this framework, I would also like to underline that we are against all sorts of nuclear weapons, which have come to increasingly occupy the world agenda in recent days. It's obvious that we could not overcome such problems unless we completely cleanse the world from the scourge of nuclear weapons. We are saddened by the fact that the comprehensive negotiation process, started in 2008, has ended due to the incomprehensible stance of the Greek Cypriots. We will do our best to ensure that the natural resources discovered in the Eastern Mediterranean in recent years will serve the peace, stability, and welfare of the region. We are ready to consider proposals for a solution that respect the rights of Turkish Cypriots. Esteemed Mr. President, dear delegates, while struggling with all these global and regional problems, our world was shocked once again by the sad news that we received from Myanmar a few weeks ago. The Muslim community in the Rakhine region of Myanmar is being subjected to almost an ethnic cleansing with provocative terrorist acts used as a pretext. The villages of the Rohingya Muslims, who have already been living in extreme poverty and misery and deprived of their citizenship rights, are burned down as hundreds of thousands of people are forced to migrate from the region and the country. The camps in Bangladesh, to which the people migrating from the region are diverted, those camps are not in a position to fulfill even the minimum humanitarian needs. As it is the case in Syria, the international community has not given a good account of itself regarding the humanitarian plight which Rohingya Muslims have been exposed to. If this tragedy in Myanmar is not stopped, the history of humanity will face the embarrassment of another dark stain. What is most important is to ensure that the Rohingya people who have taken refuge outside their country, especially in Bangladesh, maintain their lives in safety, peace and welfare on their own lands where they have lived for centuries. Turkey is endeavoring for the solution of this crisis as well. Recently, on the occasion of a meeting of OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, we held a special session on that matter in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, with the participating countries. My wife, my son, and our ministers who visited the camps in Bangladesh immediately after the latest crisis personally witnessed the humanitarian plight. And the clothing, food, and other humanitarian aid was provided, and we are now looking into the second phase of such aid. We will today hold the meeting of the organization of the Islamic Cooperation Contact Group on Rohingya at the premises of the United Nations this afternoon, in fact. As I said, my wife, my son, and our ministers and some other NGOs of Turkey went there. TİKA, which is the official aid organization of Turkey, went there for aid, and TİKA is the only officially aiding organization. AFAD, the Turkish Red Crescent, and other NGOs, they continue their activities to deliver humanitarian aid to the Rakhine Muslims in Myanmar. If concerned countries provide the necessary means, we would like to continue our assistance activities in a more comprehensive way. And I discussed these issues with the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres. We are now preparing ourselves for further steps. Esteemed Mr. President, dear delegates, all these developments and the humanitarian tragedies confirm the relevance of our appeal for the restructuring of the UN, especially the Security Council, symbolized by our motto, the world is bigger than 5. Gathered here under this roof, we need to understand that it is really late for us to reform the Security Council. So under this roof, we are representing the whole world. But if we cannot display the will to prevent the murders by terrorist organizations and humanitarian crisis and grievings, then everyone will search for their own ways to help themselves on their own. If this understanding prevails, then our world will be dragged into a new storm of chaos and cruelty. If Western countries do not prevent tendencies such as xenophobia, racism and animosity against Islam, if the countries in the crisis-ridden regions do not demonstrate the decisive will to fight terrorist organizations and poverty, and if we do not cooperate, all of us, with one another on all of these fronts, then how can we possibly reach our ideals of peace and a decent life for all on a sustainable planet? We support the work conducted towards this end by the Honorable Secretary General, with whom we cooperated in the past closely during his tenure as the UNHCR. It is not to the benefit of anyone to insist on the continuation of this distorted system, which no longer has the capacity to take concrete steps towards the good of humanity under its current form. We want the UN Security Council to have a democratic, transparent, fair and effective structure. We propose that the Security Council consists of 20 members with the same rights and competencies to serve for 2 years and a half, of which are replaced every year. As such, all countries in the world will have a say in this important institution when it is their turn. It is imperative that we transform the UN into a different body because the world is changing. The world has changed. It is not the same world when the UN was established after the Second World War. We should be talking about the UN, which is being administered by representatives from the entire world, and as such it will be the embodiment of the humanity's common conscience, we believe. Before I conclude my remarks, let me remind you that, regardless of the color of our faces and eyes, our tears are the same. I urge you to take action immediately to stop the tears flowing in different parts of the world. I hope that the work of this 72nd session of the General Assembly will contribute to our efforts to that end. With these thoughts, I salute with amity and respect all countries and peoples represented under this roof at this joint Parliament of Humanity. On my own behalf and on behalf of my country, my greetings to you all. God bless you.
We just listened in there to the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan at the United Nations, speaking to the world leaders at the General Assembly there. He was expected to call for UN reform, which he has done so. He said, under this roof, we are representing the whole world. He called for the UN reform. We have to transform the UN as it was established after the Second World War, he said, which has been an ongoing discussion.